Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Easy Learn. And today's topic is the cosine rule, within which we're going to be doing some practice today. If you haven't watched my cosine rule explanation video yet, pause right here, check the link in the description below, go understand the concept first, and then come back for solving. Today's question is this is a shape that is made from two triangles, and one is ABD and one is BDC, and overall it's ABDC. And as you can see, AB is 63 centimeter and angle B is 79 degrees, DC is 76 centimeter and angle C is 44 degrees. And the question says find the length of AD. So this is the length that they're talking about, the length AD. This is what we gotta find. Let's say if I have this as x. So how would I find this length? If I want to find this length, as you can see, I just have an angle that is right opposite to that or the one that's corresponding to it. And I just have this length that is AB. Now I would need one extra information in order to be moving on with this question. And as you can see that there is this length BD, and this BD is attached with another triangle that is the BDC, and it has a specific length DC 76 and it has an angle 44 degrees. Now if you notice, this is one box right here. This box indicates that this triangle is a right angle triangle. So life's kind of easy that we have a right angle triangle here, which is a 90-degree triangle. And what happens when we want to find the any length, or if I consider this triangle, I gotta be finding BD, and to find BD I will be using my trigonometric functions. And what are my trigonometric functions? It's sine, cos, tan. And how do I use it? I gotta figure out what are my lengths, what are my A, O, and H. So how do I figure that out? A is always the length enclosed between 90 degrees and the angle given. So as you can see, here's my 90 degrees, here's my 44 degrees, and the length enclosed between that is 76. And then my opposite, or my O, is the length that is opposite to the given angle. That is the 44 degrees, the length right opposite to that. That's my BD. It's unknown, but anyway, I gotta find it. So this is my O. And H is always the diagonal length, or the one opposite to 90 degrees, and it's this one, the BC, but I don't really need it, so I don't care about it. And just to remind you what the trigonometric functions are, it's sine theta equals opposite over hypotenuse, cos theta equals adjacent over hypotenuse, and tan theta equals opposite over adjacent. So in this particular question, since I'm dealing with my right angle triangle first thing, in my right angle triangle, I have a length that is enclosed between the 90-degree and the angle that is 44, and that's 76 centimeter. And this is the length that is right opposite to the given angle 44 is the one I have to find. So that's my BD, or I could just say it's, let me just write it as Y. So this is the length I'm first of all looking for, and then once I get that length, then I can move on to finding my AD. But for now, I need my BD first. And now that I'm dealing with my adjacent, that is the A, and the length right opposite to the angle, that is the O, the opposite, I'm going to be using the tan theta. Tan theta is opposite over adjacent. So since I have my opposite, since I have my adjacent, I'm going to be using that. So I'm going to be writing tan theta, and my theta is 44, equals the opposite, which I don't have, so you can just write it as BD or any other variable like how I wrote Y. So you can write Y or anything, whatever you like. It's anyway unknown. And then divided by the adjacent, that is 76. Now, because I got to find BD, I need to take my 76 to the other side. Now, 76, as you can see, is in division with the BD. So when it goes to the other side, it turns into multiplication. So I have tan 44 times 76. So tan 44 times 76 gives me my BD. Now, checking that up on the scientific calculator, first of all, make sure your calculator is set on degrees, and then I'm going to type this tan function. So tan 44 times 76 gives me 73.392, and so on. I'm just going to round off to one decimal place. So my BD equals 73.4. So it's 73.4 centimeter. Make sure you remember that. Now, the next part of the question is find the length AD. Now, moving on, again, what was my length? It was 73.4. 73.4 was my BD. And now that I am looking for my AD, this is the length AD. Now, I have, let's say, length number one, length number two, length number three, although it's missing, but at least it's involved. And I have this angle. So to recall the entire thing, the cosine rule, what happens is that when you have three lengths and you have one angle, you're going to be using the cosine rule because that's how it is. Whenever you have three lengths and one angle, doesn't matter which one of them is unknown, as long as you're dealing with three lengths and one angle, you got to be using the cosine rule. And because we're dealing with finding the length, so for length, there is a different formula arrangement, and that is something like this. C squared equals a squared plus b squared minus 2ab cos c. If you were to find the angle, then it would be the same formula but with a different arrangement. So for the length, you have this particular formula, and now I gotta first of all figure out what is my capital C, what is my small c, and A and B kind of just come complementary once you figure out your C. So the capital C is always going to be your angle. It's always the theta or the angle that's given to you, or even if it's unknown, the angle itself is C. And the small c always has to be the length right opposite to the given angle. So if 79 is my capital C, then my small c is this length AD. So I'm just gonna be putting everything up in this formula. And as you can see that there's a 63 and a 73.4. Now I could take either this one as A and this one as my B, or I can reverse the order. That's completely fine. I can take this one as B and this one as A. It's all the same thing. As long as you figure out your C, your small c and your capital C, A and B aren't that important to worry about. So for the c square, I don't really have my c, so I'm just going to be writing AD squared because that's the length I'm looking for. So AD squared equals the a square, that is, let's say 63 squared, plus the b squared that I'm going to be taking as 73.4 squared, minus 2. Let me just put all of that in brackets because after the minus sign, the 2ab, all of that is in multiplication. So it's always good idea to put stuff in brackets when you have more than one operation involved. So minus 2 times the a, that is again 63, times the b, that is 73.4, times cos, and cos of capital C, and capital C, as you can see, is given as 79. So once I have all of that set in front of me, you can just type that down on your scientific calculator. Now, again, make sure that you have, first of all, set your calculator on degrees because whenever you're dealing with sine, cos, tan, your calculator has to be on degrees unless and until the question says that find your answer in radians. That's when you will use this rad function. Otherwise, you always have to keep it in degrees. And then you write 63 squared plus 73.4 squared. Just in case you wonder, how do you get that square or that small 2 on the top? When you write 63, you click on this function x to the power of y. Once you click that, you get an empty box up there, and your cursor automatically lands on that empty box, and you can just click 2, so you will get a square up there. So 63 squared plus 73.4 squared minus, and then again, as I told you already, that you got to put stuff in brackets. So when you're doing it on your calculator, even then, you got to be putting it in the brackets just so that you don't mess up, you don't end up in wrong calculations. So 2 times 63 times 73.4 times cos 79. Again, do not forget to put it as degrees, otherwise your answer is going to be wrong. Now, once you solve all of that, you will get something like this: 7591.88 and so on. That means AD squared is equal to 7591.8820 and so on. So I can just keep it as 7591.8821. Just keeping it to 3 to 4 decimal places for a more accurate result, since my question is not over yet. So when you're still doing the problem, the solution is still remaining to be found, so it's just better to take at least 3 to 4 decimal places. That will give you a more accurate answer. Now, I have AD square equals all of that, but I don't need AD square. I just gotta find my AD. So in order to find my AD, I need to isolate my AD or just make AD the subject, or whatever is attached to the AD has to go to the other side. So this square up there has to go to the other side. So when a square goes to the other side or after the equals sign, it turns into a square root. That's the rule. Anything that's a square goes to the other side, turns into a square root. Anything that is a cube root, a cube, goes to the other side, turns into a cube root. That's just a general rule. So AD square is equal to something. So when the square goes to the other side, turns into square root. So I'm going to be writing AD equals square root of 7591 and so on. You put that in your calculator now. Once I do that, I'm getting something like this. So as you can see, I took 7591.8821 on the calculator, square root of that, and then I get some answer 87.3 87.13. So that's my final answer. That is just going to be writing AD equals 87.1. I'm just going to be rounding off now. And when you get your answer, you will either put it as three significant figures or just one decimal place. So I'm going to be writing 87.1. So that's my final answer. That means that this length AD is going to be 87.1 centimeter. That's how you find it out. Again, first of all, when you have a right angle triangle, you're going to be using the trigonometric functions to find the BD. Once you have your BD, you use the cosine rule, the length formula, to find your AD. Make sure your calculations are right. Make sure your calculator is set on degrees. You use the cos function. And then in the end, do not forget to square root your final answer. Once you square root, you'll get your actual length. So that's pretty much it. If you have any confusions, any questions, drop them down in the comment section below. And thank you so much for watching Easy Learn. Do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. Take care of yourselves. Until next time.